I began to do my follow-up from yesterday on what it means for God to not like us. How do we get to that place of God liking us? It took me a long time to get to the place where I could hear. I had to be able to hear what the higher heavens were saying to me. As I meditate and I pray and I look over all of the suffering that's going on in this world, I pray for people to be safe, to have the things that they need, food and protection and, housing, all of those things. But we live in a world right now where all of those things seem to be under attack. And that's why I went to the higher heavens. I went to that place of clarity, that place where you can raise the questions. The problem was I was raising the wrong question. And I kept thinking, what is the question? What is the question? What is the question? The question I needed to raise to the higher heavens, the higher thinking and the higher wisdom was, do you like us? Now, what I didn't like was the answer. The answer that I got was no. So the next question, because I'm not praying just for myself, I'm praying for the whole world. Black women have a habit of being ready to be there for everyone. And I get that we have to learn first how to love our own community, because indeed, at times we have not. We have been the agents of chaos in our own community, and that too must stop. It's okay to love ourselves. It's okay for us to care for our community many times before we care for others. But in our community as Black people, we have loved other communities more than we have loved our own. In many, many circumstances, we have. And that is what has sent me on the journey. Listening to my sisters and what they have to say in this space and time that seems to be tohu vabohu, chaos, pure chaos, intentional chaos. Now, when we go over into the beginning doesn't say that there was intentional chaos. There was just chaos. And then the higher God steps on the scene with the first enunciations and the emanating intent to create and to bring order to what was presenting as tohu vabohu, chaos. So now we are the Selem, the image bearers of the Most High God. I'm going to see, bear with me if I can put the image up here that I want to share with all of you so that you can see what I am seeing. There we go. Selem. Yes, I go back to an ancient African language every time. I had a teacher tell me, a very, very intelligent, powerful African brother. He said, why are you crying about learning this lesson? It is your language. I never considered Hebrew being an ancient African language, but it is. Now, Selem, you've heard me say that we are the image bearers. It means that we are image or likeness, often referring to a representation of God. If we are the representation of God in this realm, indeed, we have done a horrible job as human beings. We have. We have not loved the way God loves, irregardless of whether we consider someone good or bad. Every day, the new mercies come for everyone. When the earth needs water, it waters everywhere where it is needed. But now that the earth itself is in a dilemma because we have mistreated, we were given responsibilities for each other and over the earth. As the image bearers of the Creator, as the wisdom bearers of the higher heavens, the creative bearers of the higher heavens, we were given responsibility to represent God in a way that was good, tov, good for everyone. That we have not done. So my answer to the higher heaven saying that right now they do not like who we are, who we have become in this space and time. So you hear people say, no, we shouldn't have to pay the Social Security and the Medicare and the Medicaid and pull housing back. All of those things came from every human being in this country, even if they were here documented or undocumented. Those monies came from the people. So what we require of each other, we now need to require of our leaders, that they too understand that they are representing image, Salem, higher wisdom, higher goodness, higher way of being. No longer this, I'm going to care for my four and no more. That has got to stop. Not only in government, but in religion as well. There was a brother who gives good information, but he pretty much talked about the full destruction of America and why these things should happen. Now, he was coming from a different religious perspective. Religion needs to be transformed as well, because if it had not been utilized for the division and the constant dividing, as Cat Williams said, division divides always. And it's been dividing and dividing and dividing. You only have to pull up Google just all of the Christian denominations in this country. Google it. Google all of the religions in this world. And then you would have to do a separate study to start looking at what are the line of demarcations between this religion and that religion and this religion. You know, when England gave up its governance over India, they had to create Pakistan because of the religious divide. Oh, that is not giving the image of God. If you go out in the morning, as I do, and you greet the rising sun, whether you can see it or not, and thank the higher heavens for the new mercies, the goodness, and the loving kindness, but your neighbor does something different to receive that, who are we to then judge? That is planting seeds of judgment that get measured back to us. However we judge, it becomes a calculation and a formula that gets measured back to us, even when it's wrong and it's fallen judgment. As the image bearers, we understand that God is emanating in all of God's wisdom and loving kindness. Black people, Caucasian people, Asian people. This is the image of God. None of us are without it. We may not act as if we have it, but none of us are without that image. None of us. And I had muted myself and didn't even know it. I wanted to make sure I shared this page. I'm looking at everything to make sure I'm doing it right. Being in God's image could be depicted as a human figure with a radiant glow emanating from us. We've all met those people that just radiate and ooze goodness, love. And we're like, oh, that person, they come in the room and the whole room just lights up. Symbolizing our inherent divine qualities like love, compassion, creativity, and reason, reflecting the character of God. Now, in the Hebrew language, there are 72 names for the Creator, and all of those names reflect the God qualities. In the Muslim language or the Arabic language, there are 109 names. Oh, there are so many names in the African culture, I couldn't even begin to tell you, because they also represent the creating deities and what they came to do. So this could be further emphasized by showing the person interacting with nature or others in a caring, get this, and responsible way. We have been irresponsible long enough. Yeah, we have. We have been very irresponsible with how we handle each other, how we handle ourselves, how we treat the earth. We have been irresponsible. And that is why I got to where I was. The higher heavens, the creator saying, I love you, but I don't like you. You can have love in that same space and realize you do not like someone's character. You do not like what is emanating from them. Is happening with the way governments are. They're emanating the things that the higher heavens don't like. Why would you take from senior citizens who put into that good old FICA over and over again their entire lives and then tell them you act like you're entitled to that? Well, they are. They are entitled to it. You're emanating things that are fallen thought. This is where we begin to defy gravity. We go to higher thought and higher way of being, no longer being weighed down by what should be nothing to us as the image bearers, the Selem, the image bearers in this realm. Should it weigh us down to do good? No. Should it weigh us down to just be kind? No. And some of us, we should begin to practice in our own communities. We are meant to mirror God's goodness. We are meant to mirror God's compassion. We are meant to mirror God's care for everything in this world. And when we don't, we get into where we are now in human history, where people can stand and not tell truth and cause other people to emanate things toward other human beings that should not be put out there at all. So if you can't understand why I got that God doesn't like us, begin in your own community. I hear my sisters and my brothers as they say, no, we have, especially as African descended people, we have loved everybody. We've gotten out there and we've fought for everybody. We've watched everyone live off of the hard works of our ancestors. A wonderful lady that I worship with this past week, she spoke about being at the March on Washington, and how she knew she was a part of history. She was a college student at the time in North Carolina, and she went up to Washington, D.C. to be a part of what Dr. King and other civil rights workers were doing. Now, throughout her life, she has witnessed others live off the goodness of her taking that march from North Carolina into DC and hearing the great speeches and the songs. She has witnessed more people benefit from that than her own people. Does she emanate disgust and all that? No, she does not. She sometimes emanates that she's wounded, that even these things that were not only good for our community, but for other communities, they're doing away with. Wonderful, wonderful woman. And she came and she shared as part of Women's History Month. So as we begin to emanate those things, and I do believe we are emanating those things because we've taken our seat as watchers. We're keeping our shalom, our peace. Why? For the good of our community. As they rip away Black Lives Matter, Black lives have always mattered to us. You can never rip that away. As you rip out the historical museums and things like that, you can never rip it out of us. You've heard me say, I wasn't born in Africa, but Africa was born in me. That character of the Creator, that character that we emanate of caring for others, loving others, Not only are we to emanate and radiate these characteristics of the higher heavens, the higher wisdom, the higher way of being, but our government is supposed to do that too. Governments around the world are supposed to emanate those things in their care for the people, in their care for the earth. I'm getting a full understanding as to why the higher heavens said to me, I love you, but I don't like you. And you only have to think back on how much sometimes you loved your children, and they would come and just tell you a bold-faced lie, and you'd be like, hold up now, wait a minute. You're not going to lie to me and to my face. So I'm not going to lie to the higher heavens and say, that's not how we are. It is how we are. And we need to change it. We need to love people the way we love ourselves. You can't tell me you love anything that of God or anything higher than yourself if you can't love your neighbor. If you can't look at your own community and have compassion on your own community. We witnessed that over and over again in this country on November 5th, communities voting against their own interest over and over again. And then complaining to the 92 and the 70-some% that decided we're out. We're beginning to foster that relationship, that emanating God image between each other that we haven't enjoyed for so long because we've been fighting your cause, believing with you. And we now have to have that time just to love each other. You want us to do that. You know why? Because when we strengthen that God love in us, that means we'll have enough for you, as we always have. Meditate with me. Try to come to a fullness of understanding that we are, as Tselem, the image bearers in this realm. We are to emanate that goodness that comes from on high, that love that comes from on high, that love that means there's no reason for me to love you, but I love you. There's no reason for me to care for you, but I care for you because you're emanating the Creator. And sometimes, we emanate that level of care that has sometimes been to the detriment of the African American, the Black community. And now that we're sitting, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter. This march isn't ours. The understanding that needs to come isn't ours. The lesson isn't ours. We've learned so much from the stripping away of the shores of the continent of Africa. We've learned so much in the Middle Passage. We've learned so much walking through the fields and doing the things that you should have been doing with us, tending the fields, building this country. But we, as the builders in the field, not being given credit for all the building we did of an economy. So much so that the president at that time, to try to break your strength, said, we're going to set them free, not knowing we have always been free. You know how I know? Because we have been defying gravity since the beginning of time. That's why you wonder why certain things didn't break us. We've always risen above what was sent to destroy. We rise above those things. So I don't know about you. Come here, come here. I want the higher heavens to like me. That means I need to love you more, care for you more, be there. So I know tomorrow for me, I will do one of those things that we do in community. We will give food to our community. And I know so many strong women of every ethnicity that are doing exactly that. Be a part of bearing the image. Understand that what's in you is so much more than you've ever thought or even maybe have been told. Everything seems to be external. You need to ask God's love to come in you. You need to ask God's wisdom to come in when it's already there. That's the biggest lie religion has told, is that you need to ask God to put these things in you, and they're already in you. You need to grow them up. You need to water them. You need to care for them and tend to them so that those things that bring about the fullness of the image you bear to fullness, that you radiate nothing but that goodness and that loving kindness of God. That lesson is what we are learning. What it is to care for others, to be willing to get out there and march for more than just your community. The farmers have to get out there and march for more than just the farmers. You need to march for every community, including that community that came in and harvested your fields. Yeah, you do. We need to do the work. Our work right now from the higher heavens is to watch. We have paid our time in with the legwork, the prayer, the getting out there and getting our hands in there for everyone but the Black community. Don't fret. We're there with you in prayer. We got your back in prayer. And I know that doesn't seem like much, but if you've ever known a Black female woman that's older and seasoned in the things of God, baby, you want her in prayer for you. Yeah, you do. So as we go forward, let's think on that. The higher heavens love us, but they haven't liked us. And we got to get to that place where we're not only loving and liking each other, but the higher heavens are being so reflected through us that the higher heavens love and like us as well.